The night I found the hidden room, my hands were shaking so hard that the candle flame danced like it was scared too. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching from and subscribe so you can hear more stories like this. I was already an old woman by then, the kind people call grandma without even knowing your real name. But many years earlier, I was not a grandma at all. I was a young nun, wearing a plain dress, keeping my head down, and trying to live a quiet life behind sacred walls. That night, I was not supposed to be in the west hallway. No one was. The west hallway was always locked. Always clean. Always silent. The other sisters said it was for storage, and not for us. The Mother Superior would smile when she said it, the kind of smile that looked warm until you stared at it too long. But I had heard something. A sound. A soft cry, like someone trying hard not to make noise. At first I told myself it was the wind. Old buildings groan, people say. The roof creaks. The pipes sing. But this was different. This sounded like a person. A person who did not want to be heard. So I followed the sound, step by step, holding my candle low, trying not to let my shoes tap too loudly on the stone floor. My heart kept saying, turn back, but my feet kept moving. When I reached the west door, I stopped. The lock was not on it. That was strange. It was always locked. I touched the handle. Cold metal. My hand pulled away, then reached again. I listened. No footsteps. No voices. Just the heavy silence of the convent, and my own breath. I opened the door. The hallway inside smelled like soap and something sharp, like cleaning liquid. The walls were too white, too bright, like they had been scrubbed over and over. My candle made long shadows that stretched and shook. And then I saw it. A fresh scratch mark on the floor, like something heavy had been dragged across it. The mark went all the way down to a small wooden door I had never seen before. That door had no cross on it. No sign. No prayer card. Nothing holy. Just plain wood, and a keyhole. And the key was in it. My stomach went tight. I felt sick, like my body already knew what my mind did not. I should have left. I should have run back to my bed, pulled the blanket over my head, and prayed until morning. But the crying came again. Very soft. Very close. I stepped closer to the small door. I put my hand on the key. The moment I touched it, the crying stopped. I froze. I waited. Nothing. Then a whisper, so quiet I almost thought I imagined it. Please. That word pushed my fear aside like a hand on my back. I turned the key. It clicked. The door opened only a little at first, like it was stuck. I pushed gently. It opened wider, and a cold breath of air came out, smelling like damp stone and old dust. Behind the door was a narrow staircase going down. Down into darkness. My candle light could not reach the bottom. My legs felt weak, but I took one step, then another. The stone steps were wet, and my fingers touched the wall to keep my balance. The wall felt rough, like it had not been touched in years. At the bottom, my candle showed a small hallway with two doors. One door was cracked open, and from that crack, a thin line of light shone out. I walked toward it. My candle shook in my hand. My lips moved in a silent prayer, not because I felt brave, but because I felt helpless. I reached the cracked door and looked inside. What I saw made my whole body go cold. There was a room with a table, not like a dining table, but like a work table. On it were papers, stacks and stacks, with names. Some papers had stamps. Some had wax seals. Some had red ink marks on the edges, like warnings. There were boxes too. Metal. Boxes with locks. And there was a young woman sitting on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest. Her hair was messy. Her face was wet with tears. Her eyes were wide and scared like a trapped animal. When she saw me, she did not shout. She did not run. She only whispered again, please. I took one step into the room. Who are you? I asked, but my voice came out too soft. The young woman pointed with a shaking finger, not at me, but behind me. I turned. And there, hanging on the wall, was a large painting of a saint. But it was not a normal painting. The saint's eyes were not painted. They were holes. Dark holes, like the painting was a cover for something. I stared, confused. Then I heard a sound above us. Footsteps. Many footsteps. coming down the stairs. Fast. The young woman grabbed my sleeve and hissed, "Hide." My candle almost dropped from my hand. The footsteps were closer now. Loud. Angry. I had only seconds. I looked around the room. My eyes landed on the painting. It was moving. Someone was pushing it from the other side. The painting swung slightly like a door. My blood felt like ice. There was another room behind it. A secret room behind a saint's face. And someone was about to come through. The young woman pulled me toward the corner, behind a tall shelf filled with books and boxes. We crouched there, our bodies pressed tight, hardly breathing. The cracked door behind us creaked, as if it was opening more. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. A key turned in a lock. And then a voice, calm and sharp, said, "She was here." I knew that voice. Mother Superior. My stomach dropped. How did she know? How could she know? The young woman's nails dug into my arm, hard enough to hurt. The shelf beside us shook slightly as the door opened fully. Someone walked into the room. I could see the hem of a long black robe. Then Mother Superior's shoes, polished and perfect. She spoke again, softly, like she was talking to a child. "Come out," she said. "You cannot hide forever." The young woman started to cry without sound, tears rolling down her face. My mind was screaming, "Stay still. Stay silent." But my heart was screaming louder, "This is wrong." I had come to the convent to serve God. To live in peace. To help the poor. To pray and do good work. So why was there a hidden room? Why was there a frightened young woman trapped inside it? Why were there papers with stamps and seals and red marks? Why was Mother Superior here, in a place she told everyone did not matter? The shelf shadow hid us, but not forever. If Mother Superior searched, she would find us. And then what? My thoughts flew to the other sisters. The smiles. The quiet prayers. The way they always looked away when the west hallway was mentioned. The way some sisters never spoke, not even at meals, not even when you said their name. I had seen little things before, things I told myself were nothing. Like Sister Clarice' bruised wrist, quickly covered by her sleeve. Like Sister Helen crying in the laundry room, wiping her face fast when I walked in. Like the donation money that never seemed to reach the poor families outside the gates. I had ignored those things because I wanted to believe the convent was holy. I wanted to believe the walls were sacred. I wanted to believe I was safe. But in that dark room, behind a saint's face, I felt something break inside me. A truth. Sacred walls can hide secrets. And people can use God's name like a mask. Mother Superior's voice came closer. "You thought you could sneak away," she said, still calm. "You thought you could make trouble." The young woman's breathing turned fast, like she might faint. I wanted to stand up and say, "Stop. Let her go." But fear wrapped around my throat like a rope. Then Mother Superior said something that made my skin crawl. "Bring the book," she told someone behind her. "We will record tonight properly." A second voice answered, lower and rougher. "Yes, Mother." A man's voice. A man inside the convent. Men were not supposed to be down here. Men were not supposed to be in the sisters' private places. I pressed my hand over my mouth to stop a gasp. The young woman's eyes widened. She stared at me, as if begging me to understand. I did understand. This place was not holy. Not down here. The shelf moved a little as Mother Superior brushed past it. The edge of her robe almost touched my knee. I could see the tip of a key ring hanging from her belt, many keys, heavy keys. Keys for many locked doors. She stopped near the table. I heard paper being moved. Boxes opening. A pen scratching across a page. Then she spoke, almost pleased. "We will not have another mistake," she said. "The outside world must never learn what we do for the good of this house. For the good of this house. Not for the good of God. Not for the good of the people. For the good of this house." I felt sick. In that moment, a hard thought entered my mind, simple and sharp. If they find me here, I may never leave. The young woman suddenly moved, just a little, like her leg cramped. The shelf creaked. Mother Superior stopped writing. Silence. Then she turned slowly. I saw the shadow of her head shift toward the shelf. My heartbeat pounded so loud I was sure she could hear it. Mother Superior walked toward us. Step, step, step. The The young woman grabbed my hand, squeezing, her eyes begging, her whole face saying, "Do something." I looked around quickly, desperate. My candle was still in my hand, the flame small but alive. If I blew it out, the room would go darker. But then we could not see. But maybe they could not see either. Mother Superior was right there now. I could see the hem of her robe near the shelf. I could see her hand reaching out, fingers long and calm, like she was about to open a cupboard. I took a breath and blew. The candle went out. Darkness swallowed the room. The young woman's breath caught in her throat. Mother Superior's voice snapped, louder now. "Who is there?" A chair scraped. Someone moved fast. I heard the sound of a match striking. A small light flared, weak and orange. The man's voice said, "Mother, should I check?" Mother Superior said, "Yes." Now. The light grew brighter as the match caught a lantern wick. Shadows jumped across the walls. The shelf in front of us was no longer safe. The man's steps came toward us. Heavy, close. And then, right beside the shelf, Mother Superior whispered, "Sister Agnes." That was my name. She knew. She had known the whole time. My throat went dry. The young woman stared at me in terror. Mother Superior spoke again, right beside us, her voice smooth like cold water. "Come out," she said. "Or I will take her first." That was when I realized the worst part. I had come down here to help. But my presence had made everything more dangerous. My mind raced, trying to find a way out. But there was only one staircase. One door. And the people blocking it had keys. Mother Superior's hand touched the shelf. Wood creaked as she started to pull it aside. The lantern light slid toward our hiding place. The young woman began to shake. I could not let her be taken because of me. I could not stay silent and pretend this was fine. My body moved before my fear could stop it. I stood up. The shelf shifted, and the lantern light hit my face. Mother Superior stared at me with eyes that looked kind, but were not kind at all. She smiled. And she said, "Good. Now we can begin." And that was the moment I understood, in the deepest part of my bones, that what I had witnessed behind those sacred walls was never meant to be seen. Not by me. Not by anyone. I opened my mouth to speak, to beg, to argue, to pray, I did not even know. But before I could say a single word, the man stepped forward, and Mother Superior lifted her key ring. The keys glittered in the lantern light like metal teeth. She reached for the lock on the door behind us. And the lock clicked shut. Behind me, the young woman whispered, "They will not let you leave now." Then Mother Superior turned to the table, opened one of the metal boxes, and pulled out a thick book with a worn cover. She placed it down slowly, like it was holy. But it did not feel holy. It felt like a record of secrets. She opened the book. And the first name I saw written inside, in dark ink, was my own. Sister Agnes. Right there on the page. As if they had been waiting for me. As if they had planned for this. My knees almost gave way. Mother Superior looked up at me and said, "Tell me, Sister Agnes. Why did you come here tonight?" I swallowed hard, but no sound came out. The room felt smaller and smaller, like the walls were closing in. The lantern flickered. The young woman held my hand like it was the only thing keeping her alive. And Mother Superior waited, smiling, pen poised over the page, ready to write whatever she wanted. I knew then that I had only two choices. Say the wrong thing and disappear. Or find a way to turn their secret against them. So I lifted my chin, even though I was terrified, and I said the first brave words of my life. I came because I heard someone crying. Mother Superior's smile did not fade. It grew. She wrote something in the book. Then she looked at the young woman on the floor and said, "You see. Even good sisters can be taught." The man stepped closer. Mother Superior tapped the page with her pen and said, "Now, Sister Agnes, you will do exactly as you are told." The young woman's grip tightened. I felt the pressure of the keys, the locked door, the hidden hallway, the secret room behind the saint's face. And as Mother Superior began to speak again, laying out what she wanted from me, I noticed something small on the table. A folded letter. It had an address on it. An outside address. A way to the world beyond these walls. My eyes locked onto that letter. And in that instant, an idea sparked in my mind like a match in the dark. But before I could move, Mother Superior slid the letter into her sleeve. Then she leaned toward me and whispered, so softly only I could hear. If you ever try to tell anyone what you saw, you will never see daylight again. And as she said those words, the lantern light flickered one more time, and the saint's painting behind us swung open by itself, slowly, as if someone on the other side was listening and ready to come through. I did not know who was behind it. I did not know if it was another prisoner. Or someone worse. But the opening grew wider. And the darkness behind the saint's face looked deep enough to swallow a person whole. The painting moved again. It did not swing like a normal door. It slid, slow and smooth, like someone had done it many times before. The saint's face stayed calm while the darkness behind it opened wider, as if the wall itself was breathing. Mother Superior did not look surprised. That frightened me more than anything. She did not jump. She did not ask who was there. She only turned her head slightly and said, "You are late." A voice answered from inside the hidden space. The corridor was not clear. It was a woman's voice, older than mine, tired and flat, like she had stopped hoping a long time ago. The man beside Mother Superior took one step back, as if he did not like being near the opening. His lantern hand shook, and the light trembled on the walls. I stood still, trying to keep my face calm, but my heart was loud inside my chest. The young woman on the floor pressed closer to my leg. She whispered, "Don't look at her eyes." I did not understand what she meant, but I obeyed. I kept my eyes low, watching only feet and shadows. A pair of shoes appeared through the opening, plain shoes, then a long dark skirt, and finally a thin hand that held a small bundle of cloth. The older woman stepped out. She looked like one of us, dressed modestly, but she did not wear a nun's veil. Her hair was tied back tight, and her face was pale. Her eyes were open wide, not wild, but empty, like a window in a house where no one lives. Mother Superior spoke politely, as if this was a normal meeting. "We have a new situation," she said. "Sister Agnes has come to the wrong place." The older woman's eyes moved toward me. I felt the young woman's grip tighten. "Please," she mouthed. I could not help her yet. I had to help myself first, or we would both be trapped forever. Mother Superior placed the pen down and closed the thick book slowly. The sound of the cover hitting the table felt like a door shutting in my mind. Then she spoke in a calm, teaching voice, like she was talking in chapel. "Listen carefully, Sister Agnes," she said. "There are things in this house that protect us. That feed us. That keep us strong. The world outside does not understand this. If it did, it would destroy us." I swallowed. "Protect you from what?" Her smile stayed. "From being poor. From being powerless. From being forgotten." Her words sounded almost honest, and that made them worse. The young woman on the floor shook her head quickly, as if she wanted to warn me not to argue. But I needed to understand. "What is this place?" I asked. "Why is she here? Why is there a hidden room?" Mother Superior lifted one finger, as if correcting a child. "Too many questions," she said. "Too soon." Then she turned to the man. "Check the stair door. Make sure no one followed her." The man nodded and walked out of the room, his heavy steps fading into the hallway. The older woman stepped closer to the table and placed her cloth bundle down. I saw the edge of what looked like envelopes, thick ones, the kind that carry money or documents. Mother Superior touched the bundle with care. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Is this money?" Mother Superior did not deny it. "Donations," she said. "Support. Gratitude. For what?" Mother Superior's eyes sharpened. "For service," she said, and then, softer, "for silence." The young woman made a small sound, like a broken breath. I looked down and saw tears on her cheeks again. A low event followed the shock, like the world slowing down after a fall. Mother Superior pulled out a chair and sat. The older woman stood behind her, silent. Mother Superior folded her hands. "You were not the first to be curious," she said. "And you will not be the last. But you are the first to be foolish enough to come this far." I did not like the word foolish. It made me feel small, but I did not let it show. She leaned forward. "Here is what will happen. You will return to your room. You will say you got lost. You will say you were praying. You will say nothing else." My mouth went dry. "And her?" I nodded toward the young woman. Mother Superior's face did not change. She will learn, she said. That was all. Learn what? Learn to obey. Learn to stay quiet. I thought of the bruises I had seen. The crying I had heard. The money that never reached hungry families. I realized the life lesson, sharp and clear, was not only for me. It was for anyone listening. Sometimes adults tell you to be quiet because they are protecting you. But sometimes they tell you to be quiet because they are protecting themselves. Mother Superior spoke again. If you agree, she said, your life stays simple. You pray, you work, you eat, you sleep. Your family stays proud. The town stays respectful. My mind jumped at that. My family. They knew where I was. They trusted the convent. They believed I was safe here. Mother Superior smiled like she had read my thoughts. If you disagree, she continued, we will have problems. What problems? I asked. She did not answer with words. She tapped the thick book, twice, with one finger. Then she looked at the older woman. Show her. The older woman stepped to the shelf and pulled out a thin folder. She opened it and slid out a paper. Mother Superior turned the paper toward me. It was a letter. It had my father's name on it. My eyes stung. Where did you get that? Mother Superior's voice stayed sweet. We have friends, she said. We have people who owe us favors. I felt my stomach twist. What is that letter? Mother Superior lifted her chin. It is a promise, she said. A promise that your father will not face trouble. Not if you behave. My hands clenched. This was not just about me anymore. They could reach outside. They could hurt people I loved. The young woman whispered, they did that to mine. I looked at her quickly. Her eyes were full of pain. Mother Superior noticed our exchange and said, no talking. Then she stood, smooth and tall, and walked toward me. Her shadow fell over my face. Now, she said, you will do something small for us, Sister Agnes. Something to prove you understand. I tried to keep my voice calm. What? She turned and pointed to the young woman on the floor. You will take her upstairs, she said. You will tell the sisters she is sick. You will put her in the infirmary room. And you will lock the door. My skin went cold. That was not help. That was another trap. I shook my head without thinking. No. Mother Superior's smile vanished. She did not shout. She did not hit me. She did something worse. She looked disappointed, like I had failed a test. Then you leave me no choice, she said softly. She turned to the older woman. Bring the cord. The older woman moved to the shelf, pulled out a roll of something, and held it in her hands. It looked like rope used for tying boxes. The young woman on the floor began to tremble harder. She pulled at my sleeve, begging without words. I lifted my hand slightly, not to fight, but to show I was thinking. Wait, I said. Mother Superior paused. Yes. I took a slow breath. I had to speak carefully. One wrong word could make everything worse. I will take her upstairs, I said. But I will not lock her in. Mother Superior's eyes narrowed. You do not bargain here. I kept my voice steady. If she screams, the whole convent will hear, I said. If she fights, someone will notice. But if I take her gently, quietly, and say she is ill, no one will ask questions. That is what you want, right? Quiet. The older woman's face did not change, but her fingers tightened on the rope. Mother Superior stared at me for a long moment. Then she smiled again, but this time it was thin, like a blade. Very well, she said. Take her upstairs. Do it quietly. Relief washed through me, but it was not peace. It was only a small win. Then Mother Superior added, and you will also deliver something for me. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out the folded letter I had seen earlier on the table. The one with an outside address. My heart jumped. She held it up. You noticed this, she said. Curiosity is a habit for you. I said nothing. She placed the letter into my hand, but her fingers held it for a second too long. This letter goes into the chapel donation box, she said. Not the real donation box. The box behind the altar. Do you understand? I nodded slowly, even though I did not understand fully. Mother Superior leaned closer and whispered, if you open it, you will regret it. Then she stepped back. The man returned, lantern raised. No one followed, he said. Mother Superior nodded. Good. Prepare the corridor. She turned to me. Go, she ordered. The young woman stood slowly, stiff like her joints hurt. She kept her eyes down. I took her arm gently. "Walk," I whispered, trying to sound calm. "Just walk." We moved out of the secret room. As we stepped into the hallway, I glanced back. The saint's painting was already sliding shut again. The hidden room disappeared like it had never existed. The man walked behind us, lantern held high. The older woman followed last, silent as a shadow. We climbed the wet stone stairs. Each step felt like a year. At the top, the west hallway looked the same as before, too clean, too bright. The man pointed. "This way," he said. We walked, and my mind ran fast. I had one chance. Maybe less. I still had the folded letter in my hand. It felt heavy even though it was thin. Mother Superior wanted it in a special box behind the altar. That meant it was important. Important things can be used. But I could not open it. Not here. Not with them watching. We reached the main corridor where the convent felt normal again. A candle burned in a wall holder. A cross hung above a doorway. A faint smell of bread came from the kitchen. It was strange how the world could look peaceful while something terrible lived right beneath it. The man stayed close. "Infirmary," he said. We reached the infirmary room. It was small, with a bed, a basin, and a shelf of herbs. The man opened the door. "Put her in," he said. The young woman stepped inside slowly. Her eyes flicked to mine, full of fear. I helped her sit on the bed. The man stood in the doorway, watching. I did not want to leave her alone, but I had to stay alive to help her later. I stepped back. "She needs water," I said. The man snorted. "She needs obedience." He shut the door, and I heard the lock click. My chest tightened. I had promised not to lock her in, and yet she was locked in anyway. I turned sharply. "You said you would not lock it." The man leaned close. His breath smelled like bitter tea. "Mother said you take her here," he replied. "Mother did not say I cannot lock the door." Then he walked away, lantern swinging. I stood there for a second, frozen with anger and fear. Then I forced myself to move. I walked down the corridor toward the chapel. My steps were quiet. My face was calm. Inside, I was not calm at all. I entered the chapel. It was empty. Candles burned near the altar. The air smelled like wax and old wood. The stained glass windows made colored patches on the floor. I walked slowly toward the altar. My hand held the letter tight, hidden under my sleeve. Mother Superior had said there was a box behind the altar. Not the public box. I looked around. No one. I knelt for a moment, like I was praying, so anyone who passed could see me doing something normal. Then I rose and stepped behind the altar. There, tucked out of sight, was a small wooden panel. I touched it. It moved slightly. My heart pounded. I opened the panel. Inside was a narrow space with a small metal box. The box had a slit at the top. I lifted the letter. This was my chance to do what Mother Superior wanted, and stay safe for now. But I also needed a way to fight back. If I placed the letter in, it might disappear forever. If I kept it, they might search me. I made a decision that could change everything. I slid the letter halfway into the slit, then stopped. I pulled it back out. I looked around again. Still no one. With shaking fingers, I opened the folded paper just enough to see one line. Only one. Because I did not have time for more. The line I saw made my stomach drop. It was not a simple note. It was a list. A list of names. And beside some names, there were dates. And beside some dates, there were payments. My breath caught in my throat. This was proof. Proof that something was happening that should not happen in a holy place. I refolded the letter quickly and slid it fully into the box. Then I shut the panel. I returned to the front of the chapel, knelt again, and bowed my head, forcing myself to look like a peaceful nun at prayer. But my mind was screaming. Names, dates, payments. I did not know what the payments were for, but I knew they were not for kindness. I stood and left the chapel. In the corridor, I almost bumped into Sister Clara. Her eyes were red like she had been crying, but she forced a smile. "Sister Agnes," she said softly. "Are you all right? You look pale." This was a low moment, the normal world pressing in again, pretending everything was fine. I had to lie. "I prayed too long," I said. Sister Clara studied my face. Then she leaned closer and whispered, so quietly I barely heard it. "Do not go near the west hallway." My blood went cold. "Why?" I asked, pretending I did not know. Sister Clara's lips pressed tight. "Because some doors do not open for God," she said. Then she walked away, her footsteps light and fast. I stood there, stunned. Some doors do not open for God. That meant she knew. Or she suspected. It also meant I was not alone. I returned to my room. I sat on my small bed. My hands shook. I tried to pray, but the words would not come. Instead, I made a plan. Not a big plan, not yet. Just a small one. Step 1, survive. Step 2, learn. Step 3, find someone outside these walls who could help. That was the life lesson forming in my heart. When something is wrong, staying silent may feel safe, but silence can also feed the wrong thing until it grows. If you want the truth to live, you must protect it carefully and share it wisely. Hours passed. The bell rang for evening meal. I went to the dining hall. The other sisters sat quietly, heads lowered. The soup was thin. The bread was dry. Mother Superior stood at the front, smiling, blessing the meal. I watched her hands as she prayed. They looked clean. Too clean. After the meal, Mother Superior walked among us like a gentle shepherd. Then she stopped behind my chair. Her hand rested lightly on my shoulder. "Sister Agnes," she said warmly, "for everyone to hear, how kind you are. You have helped our guest who is unwell." My stomach tightened, but I forced a polite smile. "You will come to my office after prayer," she added softly, only for me to hear. I nodded. My throat was tight. After prayer, I walked to her office. The hall was quiet. My steps sounded loud in my own ears. Her office smelled like lavender and paper. A cross hung on the wall. A candle burned on her desk. She sat and motioned for me to sit too. I stayed standing. Mother Superior clasped her hands. "Today was unfortunate," she said. "But it can also be useful." I said nothing. She looked at me. "You are smart," she said. "And you care about doing what is right. That is why you are dangerous." My heart pounded. She leaned forward. "I will give you a choice, Sister Agnes." I swallowed. "What choice?" She smiled. "You can be punished for curiosity," she said. "Or you can be rewarded for loyalty." I did not like the word loyalty on her tongue. "What do you want from me?" I asked. Mother Superior's eyes glittered. "I want you close," she said. "I want you to help me manage certain matters. You will see more. You will understand more. And you will stop asking questions like a child." My skin crawled. She was offering me a place near her, not because she trusted me, but because she wanted to control me. She continued, "If you accept, you will be my assistant. You will handle records. You will carry messages. You will have access." Access. That word lit a small flame in my mind. Access could be a trap, but it could also be a tool. I kept my face calm. "If I say no," Mother Superior's smile faded. "Then you will be transferred," she said, "to a place where you will not be heard from again." My stomach dropped. This was not a real choice. This was a cage with two corners. I forced myself to nod slowly. "I will serve," I said. Mother Superior's smile returned, satisfied. "Good," she said. "Then you will start tonight." Tonight. I had hoped for time. I had none. She stood and walked to a cabinet. She opened it with one of her many keys. Inside were folders, books, and envelopes. She pulled out a small ring of keys and held it up. "These are for certain doors," she said. "Not all doors, but enough." She placed the keys into my palm. The metal felt cold, like the west hallway floor. Then she said, "You will go now to the infirmary. You will bring the guest to the lower chapel." My throat tightened. Lower chapel. Mother Superior's eyes did not blink. "Yes," she said. "There is a service we must complete." A service. The word sounded holy, but everything in my body screamed that it was not. I walked out of her office with the keys hidden in my sleeve. My legs felt weak as I went toward the infirmary door. I could hear the young woman inside, moving slightly, maybe pacing, maybe crying. I reached the door. My hand touched the lock. I slid one key in. It turned. The door opened. The young woman looked up, eyes wide. "Are they sending me back?" she whispered. I wanted to say no. I wanted to promise safety. But I could not lie to her. Yes, I said softly. But listen to me. Stay close. Do exactly what I say. Do not run. Her face went pale. I can't, she whispered. I can't go back down there. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. If we want to live, we have to be calm, I said. We have to think. She stared at me like she was trying to decide if I was real. Then she nodded, shaking. I led her into the corridor. The convent was quiet, but not peaceful. We walked toward the stair that I now knew led down. My keys felt heavy, like a warning. We reached the top of the stairs. The air coming up from below was cold. I took one step down, then another. The young woman followed, trembling. Halfway down, I heard something that made my blood freeze. From below, a group of voices. Not praying, not singing, counting. A slow count, like numbers being said in a dull rhythm. And then, mixed with the counting, I heard another sound. A soft thud, repeated, like something heavy being placed on stone. The young woman grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. That is the sound, she whispered. That is the sound I heard before they took me. I stopped on the stair. My mind raced. If we went down, we might not come back up. If we turned back, Mother Superior would know. Then I noticed something beside the stair. A small side door, half hidden by a curtain. I had never seen it before. My new keys might open it. I looked at the young woman, then at the side door, then down into the darkness where the counting continued. I made a choice. I pulled the young woman toward the side door. I slid a key in. It turned easily, like it had been waiting. The door opened into a narrow passage, darker than the stairwell. We stepped inside. I closed the door behind us, holding my breath. The counting continued on the other side of the wall, muffled now, but still there. The passage smelled of damp stone and old incense. We moved forward slowly, my hands searching the wall in the dark. Then my fingers touched something that felt like a switch. A hidden latch. I pressed it. A section of the wall clicked and opened, revealing a small viewing gap, like a thin window cut into the stone. My heart stopped. I leaned in, careful. The young woman leaned in too, shaking. Through the gap, we could see into a large room below. A room I had never imagined existed under a convent. There were candles, many of them, set in a circle. In the middle was a table. And around that table stood several figures in dark robes, faces partly covered. Mother Superior was there. The man was there. And on the table was the thick book, opened wide. Mother Superior lifted her hand and said, in a voice that carried power like a command, "Begin." The counting stopped. Everything went still. Then, from the far side of the room, the saint's painting moved again, and someone new stepped out from behind it, dragging a large sack across the stone floor. The sack was moving, and whatever was inside it made a muffled, frightened sound. The young woman beside me let out a tiny gasp, and I clamped my hand over her mouth just in time. But it was too late. In the room below, Mother Superior's head snapped up. Her eyes turned slowly toward the exact spot where we were hiding. And she smiled. Mother Superior's smile stayed frozen on her face as she stared toward the wall. Straight at us. I felt the blood leave my face. My hand stayed tight over the young woman's mouth. Her breath was hot and fast against my palm. For a long second, nothing moved. Then Mother Superior spoke. "Who is there?" she asked, calmly. Her voice echoed softly in the large room below. The robed figures did not turn. They stood still, like they were trained not to react. The sack on the table moved again. Something inside it struggled. A low sound came from it, like a weak cry. My stomach twisted. The young woman's body shook. I felt her tears on my fingers. I whispered into her ear, barely moving my lips. "Do not move. Do not breathe loud." She nodded, though I was not sure she could stop shaking. Mother Superior stepped away from the table. Each of her steps was slow. Careful, like she was enjoying the moment. She stopped beneath the wall where we hid. I could see her clearly through the thin gap now. Her face looked calm, almost gentle, but her eyes were sharp. She lifted her head slightly. "Curiosity is a sickness," she said. "And sickness must be treated." The man in the room shifted. "Should I check?" he asked. Mother Superior raised one finger. "Wait." She turned in a slow circle, looking at the walls, the candles, the floor. Then she smiled again. There is no one here, she said softly. Continue. The robed figures relaxed slightly. The man stepped back. I almost collapsed with relief. But the relief did not last. Mother Superior added, after we finish. My heart pounded. After we finish. The sack let out another sound, clearer now. A voice. A woman's voice. Please, it said weakly. The young woman beside me bit into her own hand to stop herself from crying out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the wall open and stop everything. But fear held me in place. The robed figures began to move. One of them opened the sack. I turned my face away. I could not watch. The young woman shook harder, and I pulled her back from the gap. We pressed ourselves into the narrow passage, breathing quietly, trying to disappear into the stone. We had to leave. Now. I looked around the passage. It was dark, but my fingers traced the wall slowly. There were marks on the stone, scratched lines, like someone had counted days. There were dozens of them. Hundreds. People had been here before us. People who waited. People who did not leave. The passage sloped slightly upward. That gave me hope. I moved slowly, pulling the young woman with me. Each step felt loud, even though we barely made a sound. Behind us, voices rose and fell in the large room. Not prayers. Commands. I did not understand the words, but I understood the meaning. Control. Fear. We reached a bend in the passage. The sounds grew quieter. I stopped and listened. Nothing behind us. I exhaled slowly. Then the young woman grabbed my arm hard. Look, she whispered. I followed her gaze. Ahead of us was a small wooden door. Different from the others. This one had scratches on it. Deep scratches. Like fingernails. My stomach turned. I touched the door gently. It was warm, not cold like stone. Someone had been here recently. I listened. At first, nothing. Then a soft sound. Breathing. I leaned closer. Hello, I whispered. The breathing stopped. Then a voice, so weak I almost missed it. Help. My chest tightened. I looked at the young woman. Her eyes were wide with fear and hope mixed together. If we opened this door, we could save someone. If we opened it, we could also get caught. I hesitated. The life lesson pressed hard in my mind. Doing the right thing is not always safe. But doing nothing can be worse. I slid one of the keys into the lock. It turned. Slowly, I opened the door. Inside was a small room, no bigger than a closet. A woman sat on the floor, her back against the wall. Her hair was gray. Her face was thin. She wore a nun's dress. An old nun. Her eyes lifted when she saw us. Tears filled them instantly. Sister, she whispered. Are you real? I nodded. Yes. She tried to stand and failed. Her legs shook too much. How long have you been here? I asked. She laughed softly, a broken sound. I stopped counting, she said. They said I was asking too many questions. My heart sank. Another one. Another sister who saw too much. I helped her stand. The young woman supported her other side. We were 3 now. 3 people they would never let leave. We have to go, I whispered. Now. We moved back into the passage, slower this time. The older nun leaned heavily on us. We had not gone far when we heard it. Footsteps. Above us. On the stairs. Fast. Too fast. They were searching. Mother Superior had lied. She knew. She always knew. A voice echoed down the passage. Check the side corridor. The man's voice. I pulled the 2 women closer and pressed us against the wall. My keys felt like fire in my sleeve. I looked around wildly. Then I saw it. A narrow opening in the wall, almost invisible. Covered by a loose stone. I pushed it. It moved. Just enough. I shoved the stone aside and pushed the young woman in first, then the old nun. I squeezed in last. We barely fit. The opening was closed just as lantern light washed over the passage. Footsteps stopped right in front of us. I held my breath. The lantern light flickered through the cracks in the stone. I could see the man's boots. So, Mother Superior's voice came from behind him. Nothing, he said. Just old passages. Mother Superior stepped closer. Her shadow fell across the wall. She tapped the stone once. Twice. My heart hammered. She leaned close. So close that I could smell her perfume through the cracks. I know you are learning, she said softly. And learning has a price. She straightened. Seal the infirmary. Lock the lower chapel. No one leaves their rooms tonight. Yes, mother, the man replied. Their footsteps moved away. The lantern light faded. I stayed still long after the sounds were gone. Finally, I breathed. The old nun sagged against the wall. They never stop, she whispered. They always come back. I knew that. This hiding place would not save us forever. We had to escape. But how? The opening we were in led deeper, not out. And then I felt something under my hand. Carved into the stone. Words. I brushed dust away and read them in the dim light. North wall. Third bell. Trust the grave. My breath caught. A message. Left by someone before us. Someone who tried. Someone who maybe escaped. Or someone who died trying. The young woman looked at me. What does it mean? I shook my head slowly. I do not know yet. But I would. I had to. Because above us, the bells began to ring. 1, 2, and as the third bell started to toll, the stone beneath our feet began to vibrate. The wall beside us shifted. And somewhere deep in the convent, a door we did not know existed began to open. The wall moved with a low grinding sound, like stone waking up after a long sleep. Dust fell around us. The old nun coughed softly, covering her mouth. The young woman clutched my arm. What is happening? She whispered. I did not answer right away. I watched the wall carefully. A narrow opening appeared, just wide enough for a person to slip through. Cold air rushed out of it, smelling like earth and rain. North wall, I whispered, remembering the words carved into the stone. Third bell. The bell above was still ringing, slow and heavy. Boom, boom, boom. When the sound faded, the wall stopped moving. The opening stayed. My heart raced. This was not an accident. This was built on purpose. Trust the grave, I whispered. The words made no sense, but I felt we had no choice. We go, I said quietly. Now. I helped the old nun first. She was weak, but fear gave her strength. She squeezed through the opening, breathing hard. The young woman went next. I followed, pulling the loose stone back into place as best I could. The space on the other side was narrow and dark. We were inside a tunnel, sloping upward. The air felt fresher. Hope stirred in my chest, small but alive. We moved slowly, one hand on the wall, one foot in front of the other. The tunnel was rough, not finished like the others. Water dripped from the ceiling. Where does this go? The young woman asked. I do not know, I said honestly. But it does not go back. That was enough. After a while, the tunnel widened. We reached a small stone room. At first, I thought it was empty. Then I saw the crosses. Simple wooden crosses leaned against the walls. Some were broken. Some had names carved into them. Not all had names. Some had only dates. Some had nothing at all. The old nun sank to her knees. This is it, she whispered. This is what they meant. The grave? The young woman asked, her voice shaking. The old nun nodded. This is where they bring those who leave the convent, she said. They say they are transferred. They say they are called to a quiet life. Her eyes filled with tears. They bury them here, not always bodies, sometimes just their names. My stomach twisted. I understood. Trust the grave did not mean death. It meant the place where truth was hidden. I walked closer to the wall and saw something else. A small wooden door, almost hidden behind two broken crosses. I touched it. It was old, but not locked. I opened it slowly. Behind it was a narrow stairway going up. Light spilled down. Real light. Daylight. The young woman gasped softly. The old nun grabbed my sleeve. Be careful, she said. Light does not always mean freedom. I nodded. We climbed the stairs carefully. At the top was another door, this one made of heavy wood. I pressed my ear against it. Voices. Above us. Sisters' voices. Laughing. The sound of dishes. The kitchen. We were under the convent kitchen. I closed my eyes for a second. We were so close. But close could still mean caught. We cannot go out together, I whispered. 3 will be noticed. The young woman shook her head. I will not leave her, she said, nodding at the old nun. The old nun touched her arm gently. Listen, she said. I have lived my life. You have not. I cut in softly. We leave together, I said. But not like this. I thought fast. Mother Superior wanted me close. She wanted to use me. That was still true. They are not looking for me yet, I said. Not openly. I can go back. Both women stared at me. No, the young woman whispered. They will kill you. Not yet, I said. Not if they still think they own me. I took a breath. This is the plan, I said. I go back. I act like nothing happened. I keep my keys. I learn more. When I find a safe moment, I come for you. The old nun shook her head slowly. I have heard plans before. I know, I said. But this time, I have proof. I thought of the letter. The list. The names. The payments. Proof. And I have a reason now, I added. Not just fear. The young woman's eyes filled with tears. What if we are moved? She asked. I will not let that happen, I said, hoping my voice sounded stronger than my fear. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out the keys. I gave half of them to the old nun. Her eyes widened. These are doors, I said, and time. She closed her fingers around them, shaking. I hugged both of them, fast and tight. Then I turned back toward the tunnel. Each step away from them felt like tearing something inside me. I replaced the stone carefully and slipped back into the passage. I moved alone now, fast but quiet. I reached the stairs and listened. Nothing. I climbed back up, one step at a time, and slipped into the corridor. The convent looked normal again. Clean, quiet, safe. That was the lie. I walked back to my room, changed my dress, washed my face. When the bell rang, I went to prayer like always. Mother Superior stood at the front. Her eyes found mine. She smiled. After prayer, she called me to her office again. You were missed, she said calmly. Where did you go? I bowed my head. I became dizzy, I said. I rested. She studied my face. I kept my breathing slow. Then she nodded. Very well, she said. Tonight was complicated. She leaned back. But tomorrow will be simpler. My heart tightened. Why? She smiled. Because tomorrow, we finish what we started. My skin went cold. What do you mean? I asked. Mother Superior opened a drawer and pulled out the thick book. She flipped pages. Stopped. She turned it toward me. On the page were 3 names. The young woman, the old nun, and mine. Transfers, she said softly. All approved. My chest burned. They will be moved, she continued. At dawn. Dawn. I had only hours. I forced myself to speak calmly. Where? Mother Superior smiled wider. Somewhere very quiet. She closed the book. You will help prepare them, she said. That will be your final service here. Final. That word echoed in my mind. I bowed and left her office. My legs felt weak, but my mind was sharp. Hours. Only hours. I rushed back to my room and sat on the bed. I could not cry. I could not pray. I had to think. Then I remembered something I had almost forgotten. The donation box. Behind the altar. The list. The names. If I could get that out. If I could get it outside. I stood up. I moved fast but quiet. I went to the chapel. No one was there. I went behind the altar and opened the panel. The metal box waited. I reached inside and pulled out the folded letter. My hands shook. I unfolded it fully this time. More names. More dates. More payments. And at the bottom, a seal. An official seal. From outside. From people who were supposed to protect. My heart pounded. This was bigger than the convent. I folded the papers and hid them inside my dress. Then I heard footsteps. I turned. Mother Superior stood in the chapel doorway. Alone. She looked at the open panel. Then at me. Her smile disappeared. You disappoint me, Sister Agnes, she said quietly. I backed away slowly. She stepped forward. I gave you trust, she said. And you chose betrayal. I shook my head. You chose this, I said. Not me. Her eyes hardened. You will not leave this chapel, she said. She reached into her sleeve. I reached for my keys. We both moved at the same time. The door behind her slammed shut. The chapel bells began to ring. Not one, not two, all of them, at once. And from beneath the floor, I heard the sound of stone grinding open again. But this time, it was not the north wall. It was the altar itself. The altar cracked open with a deep sound, like the earth breaking. Stone slid apart beneath my feet. Cold air rushed up, carrying the smell of dust and old secrets. The bells rang louder, wild and uneven, no longer holy but panicked. Mother Superior stepped back for the first time. Her eyes flicked to the opening altar. She had not planned this. I realized something important in that moment. The hidden paths were not hers alone. They belonged to the building. To the people who suffered inside it. To those who learned how to survive. The floor beneath the altar opened just enough to reveal a narrow stair going down. Light from the candles shook across the stone. I clutched the papers inside my dress. Mother Superior recovered quickly. She reached for her keys. "You will give me those papers," she said, her voice sharp now. "You do not understand what you are doing." "I understand enough," I said. She lunged toward me. At the same time, a voice echoed from below. A clear voice. A man's voice. "Open the chapel doors," it said. Now, Mother Superior froze. So did I. The voice came again, closer. "This is an inspection. Step away from the altar." My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Inspection. The word felt unreal. Mother Superior's face changed. Not fear. Not anger. Calculation. She turned slowly, smoothing her robe. "There is no inspection scheduled," she said calmly. The chapel doors shook. Someone struck them hard. "Open the doors," the voice commanded again. "By authority. Authority." I moved without thinking. I ran. I ran to the chapel doors and pulled the heavy bolt aside. The doors burst open. Men stepped in. 2 of them, wearing plain coats. Serious faces. Behind them stood a woman with sharp eyes and a notebook in her hand. The room went silent except for the bells. The woman looked at the broken altar. The open stone. The candles. Then she looked at Mother Superior. "We received documents," the woman said. "And a letter." My breath caught. The woman turned to me. "Are you Sister Agnes?" "Yes," I said, my voice shaking. She held out her hand. "Give me what you have." I pulled the papers from my dress and placed them in her hand. She opened them. Her face hardened with every line she read. "These names," she said quietly. "These dates." She closed the papers and looked at Mother Superior. "You are under investigation," she said. Mother Superior laughed once, sharp and cold. "You think you understand this place," she said. "You do not." The woman replied calmly, "We understand enough." The men moved forward. Mother Superior stepped back. Her foot hit the edge of the open altar. She looked down. For the first time, she looked afraid. "This house survives because of silence," she said. "Because people look away." I spoke then, louder than I thought I could. "Not anymore." The men took her arms. She did not fight. She only looked at me. And for the first time since I met her, she did not smile. They led her out of the chapel. The bells stopped ringing. The silence afterward felt heavy, but clean. The woman with the notebook turned to me. "There are others," she said. "We know." "Yes," I said quickly. 2 are hiding. Below. Near the north wall. She nodded. "We will find them." They did. The young woman came out first, trembling but alive. The old nun followed, leaning on a man's arm, tears streaming down her face. When she saw me, she held my hands and whispered, "You came back." "I promised," I said. The convent did not sleep that night. Doors opened. Hidden rooms were found. Books were taken. Names were read aloud. Some sisters cried. Some stayed silent. Some finally spoke. By morning, the sacred walls no longer hid secrets. I left the convent that day. I did not wear my nun's dress anymore. I wore plain clothes. I walked into the sunlight and felt it on my face, warm and real. Years passed. I grew old. I became what people now call grandma. Sometimes children sit at my feet and ask me why I left the convent. I tell them this: not every quiet place is safe. Not every smile is kind. And not every wall that looks holy is honest. But I also tell them this: truth is strong, even when it is whispered. Even when it is hidden. Even when it waits years to be heard. Because one brave step can open a wall. And once the truth is seen, it can never be buried again. Lesson from the story. The story teaches us that the truth can often be hidden behind facades, and sometimes, the most sacred places might hold the darkest secrets. It shows that we must never blindly trust authority or the institutions we think are unshakable. The grandmother's experience as a nun reveals that sometimes what we see and hear behind closed doors isn't the whole picture. It's a reminder to stay true to our values, seek the truth, and always stand up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Ultimately, this story teaches that silence in the face of injustice is never the answer, and confronting the truth, no matter how painful, is the first step toward reclaiming our power and dignity. That's it for today's story. If you found it as shocking as we did, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and leave a comment with your thoughts. What would you do in this situation? Remember to subscribe so you never miss the next twist in the story. Your support means everything to us. Thank you for being part of the journey.